Welcome back to the Doulas No Squat Book Club. This week we are discussing Deliver, a concise guide to supporting the woman you love through labor. We're discussing topics including when it's time to call your birth team or time to leave for your birth space, as well as our favorite pain management techniques and physicians. Thank you so much for joining us today, and let's get ready to hear from some doulas who know squat.
Okay, speaking of leaving, what signs do you look for leaving or for calling, if you're home, for calling them to come to you?
Really, if you are having to focus through your contractions. I mean, that's the biggest thing for me. It's like you can time them, and you have the 4-1-1 rule or 5-1-1, whichever one you explain what that is. The contractions are 4 minutes apart, 1 minute long for an hour. And that's timing from the start of one contraction to the start of the next.
Actually, it's timing from the start of one contraction to the peak. Because if you start from start to the start of the next, then they appear to be closer together and longer. And then you get people going too early. Because the uterus is no longer contracting at peak, it's coming down. The contraction is over. Work is no longer being done. Changes the math quite a bit.
I've always heard it as the start of one to the start of the next.
We've moved from that. They were timed previously. I'm not sure how long ago, but that's how you're supposed to time now.
Interesting.
Right? But, we don't really give a lot of credence to timing.
Yeah.
For example, a birth that I was just doing just a few days ago, she was really trying to base her stuff on timing instead of visual cues, like what you're talking about, being really internally focused. What kind of sounds are you making? How intense are these contractions? She was really focused on length of time. We had talked about that's just so pervasive in our society of just focusing on timing, that she didn't call in her birth team because her contractions were never longer than 30 seconds apart. But they were never longer than 30 seconds apart. They never. So she gave birth by herself with her husband without informing her birth team because she thought that it was prodromal labor because they never got longer than 30 seconds.
The very first birth that I went to as a doula, the contractions never got a consistent rhythm to them. Exactly. Because the baby was malpositioned. Baby had hand up. And so the contractions were like, some were 2 minutes apart, but then some would be 7 minutes apart. And it was like crazy. And then she called me and she's like, actually her husband called me. She was in the background and I could hear her in the background, like, go to the birth center now.
I run.
She got there and was at 8 centimeters.
That's how he called me. And he waited until 8 in the morning because he didn't want to wake me up. Such a sweetheart. Please call me in the middle of the night. Anyway, so he called me and I could hear her in the background too. And he said, well, they're just not that long. And I said, coming, I can hear her. Call your midwife. We need to go an hour ago. I could hear the sounds. I was like, this woman is getting pushy. And sure enough, 30 minutes later, he called me and he was like, I don't know if you still want to come out, but I just caught a baby. I'm so excited for you. She delivered. Medical professional was there. I don't know. But yeah, so it's hard to know exactly what signs to look for or to describe it. When you go to births all the time, it's almost like you get a sixth sense for it. But it's a lot of sounds, it's a lot of body movements, it's a lot of like hand flexing when it's somebody that's really practiced relaxing and suddenly they're having trouble relaxing. I don't give a lot of credence to contraction timing.
Yeah. like during my own birth, like my second birth, I remember like knowing that it was really close to time, and I hadn't like timed the contractions at all, besides like once or twice, and I'm like, no, it's time, this is what it feels like. I'm things are changing, and it's getting serious.
Transition is happening, and I'm aware, and I don't need an app to tell me that. You know, all bodies labor differently. All bodies with each baby labors differently. That's English. Yeah. So it's very difficult to describe, but I mostly encourage people to watch labor videos and observe the sounds, the movements, become acquainted with that, and then use that to be able to identify in your own birth where you're at. Because anything else is just kind of guesswork. Really.
Yeah, that's a good way for them to learn.
Yeah, it's the way that most human beings learn is by experience. There's definitely a lot to be said for book learning, but
it's really hard to describe the change that happens.
Yeah, it's one of the fun things that I enjoy doing at my prenatals. I demonstrate, and it always makes my clients go.
I mean, really, it's so funny, like just acting out how that progression happens. I think during my doula training, my trainer had done that, and I'm like, oh, I felt that.
Like, oh, I've made that noise before. That took me back. Like I'm in labor again. Okay. That is chapter 7. So chapter 8 talks about managing pain through different positions, and it goes through several different positions, which I appreciate, and it's got the photos and everything of different options, and it talks about different massages for feet, low back. What were some positions that worked really well for you, that have worked really well for clients? Did you practice beforehand or just kind of go with the flow?
Definitely practice beforehand, just to, but some of we're talking about positions during labor.
Yeah. We're moving into active labor at this point in the book.
Yeah, so even beyond just positioning, I like to tell my clients to practice soothing touches, to be familiar with what actually is soothing for you, and have your partner be familiar with what is a soothing touch and what is a touch.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like light touches. The like sweet scratches and stuff. That was my jam when I was in labor. There's video of me literally just laying down with my arms out, and all of my support people, and I throw parties during labor, so everybody and their dog is invited to come watch me labor, are just like giving me scratches, and I'm just breathing through it while getting that. And that's my jam. Most people are like, get that gentle touch away from me. They want firm, intentional touch.
Yeah, that's definitely me too. Like the light touches.
Yeah, I remember you would if somebody light touched you during your labor, like it like took you out, and you were so focused. It's just like, okay, don't do that.
Oh, during my first labor, my dad was in the room, and he started like stroking my head, and I just like turned at him and gave him the most intense death glare that he immediately stepped back. And
that's not to communicate. Yeah.
And this is a man that does not pick up on like signals very well.
No, he doesn't.
And like everyone in the room was like suddenly aware of how perturbed I was by that form of touch.
No gentle touches for Jamie. Which is the norm. Most people don't like it. I still keep like combs in my birth bag that are once you reach the point where you're not relaxing through contractions anymore, which some people never reach, but if you do, having combs to squeeze can be helpful because it pushes on different acupressure points on your hands, which can be helpful, but also for scratches for people that do like that. My entire family has liked gentle touch in our labors, but we're touchy.
Well, me too. I just I want it's like people like those like firm hugs, and I just want to be like.
You're right. I definitely that's every single photo of me in your labor is squeezed, and you're like relaxing, and your husband's in the car going. It's just very funny to me. Like you've been to all three. Just so cute. You did great. The face expressions are just funny. Okay, so I am totally a huge fan of practicing different positions prenatally. My main reason for doing that is actually because there are a lot of positions that our bodies would naturally get into for labor, but because we don't really do those positions anymore, because we like to sit in these big old comfy chairs and all that jazz, we're uncomfortable in them, and so we don't even do them. And I've had so many clients that previous to me receiving the amount of training that I have when I was very, 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 very early in my training, they would get to active labor and they would start saying things like, I don't know what to do now. I don't know where I'm comfortable. And I'm like, okay, well, let's try different things. And they weren't in a place where that even sounded okay because they felt so into fight or flight from not knowing what to do. And so if you can say, remember, we've practiced this before. I know that you already like this. Let's do that. That's much more calming. Like, oh yeah, I already know. And then if they get into it and they say, oh, I don't like this, then we say, okay, well, we practice this too, and move that way. My biggest one that I like to practice that people aren't normally used to is that deep squat. The Malasana squat. We don't squat anymore. Like, not really. And Doulas no squat, but the deep squat.
The one that toddlers are really good at getting into.
Toddlers are amazing at deep squatting. Non-Western cultures tend to be really good at deep squatting. We don't squat. We get to the 90 degree and that's where we hang out. And so that's a really good one to practice to really stretch out those calves so that you can deep squat. And a lot of people find that to be either really comfortable or really progressive. Generally not both. For me and my first child, the squat was really progressive and I didn't like it, but we needed to get her out. So that was really helpful. And for some people, they find it really comfortable where like they'll go into a deep malasana and I'll sit behind them or their partner will sit behind them and they actually sit on my legs or their partner's legs in that malasana and it's relaxing to them. It's a great engagement position. It's a great active labor position. I like it.
Yeah, I always liked it during pregnancy. It because I tend to have a lot of pelvic issues during pregnancy, and like being in that position just kind of was kind of restful for my hips. But then during labor, it because my hips are so loose, getting into like during labor, it exacerbates that and makes it worse. So, but
yeah, different bodies, different people. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it definitely changes for different people. Also, another squat. You can take your rebozo and wrap it around a squat bar, and they can sit in it. And you just have one person on either side holding that up. And then that completely takes all of the weight off their legs, but puts them in a really good squat position. And then they lay down like this on the squat bar. That's an excellent active labor position. Depending on how comfortable your medical staff is with doing that while you have an epidural, you can. But I've only had one client actually have a supportive enough birth team to be like, okay, we'll try that. They had a lot of nurses in the room, but though, because then we got her into it, and as soon as her contractions started, she was like, nope, and I was like, that's kind of funny. Because you never know until you get there, and then she's like, yeah, no, actually, it turns out I don't like this at all. Bet, okay. Let's just get you out then. Anyway, okay, so yes, and then massage techniques. What are you looking for in a massage?
So for massage, it's really going to be like you need to figure out whether the firm or light touch, like how deep of a massage is soothing for them, because there's such a large range like that. Like normally there a lot of doulas will carry tennis balls in their birth bag and use that for along the bath. I have a lacrosse ball that is significantly firmer than a tennis ball that I find super helpful because of the firmer touch. But don't you have something that's like softer than a tennis ball?
Yeah, so I think the tennis balls are too abrasive. I didn't like them in my first labor, didn't use them in my second. So when I went to build my birth bag, I don't know what kind of balls they are. Somebody told me. But they're yellow and they were next to the tennis balls, but they had more give to them. They were a little bit softer. And I have two of them in a sock. My birth bag is in my vehicle just in case I need it. It's ready to go at any point. So it's not in here. But it's so I can take it, and the hair tie in the middle of the sock makes it to where it goes on either side of their spine really well without moving around. And you can move it up and down, or you can press on a specific point and leave it there. It's got a little bit more give. And then I have a plastic roller for when my clients want really specific firm push. Or I just use my hands. I mostly use my hands. I really turn to tools for like support people to use that aren't used to using their hands, or if the labor has been really long and I'm trying not to get carpal tunnel when I'm old, or when I'm moderately old.
You're not already old? What?
I had a birth where my fingers started to actually like pop as I was trying to move them because I had been doing very specific compression with them for 5 hours straight. And at the end of that, they started like refusing to bend back. And I was like, probably before I get to this point, if I want to continue to use my hands for them, I should get some tools for that. And that's what I have.
I mean, my thing with massage with clients is like you really need to make sure that you know where are okay places to touch, because there's a lot of people that have like very specific, even can seem strange to you, no-go places.
Yes.
So just making that a really like focused part of prenatals, like where are the places that you are okay with being touched, which ones would you prefer, which ones are no-goes, and just working through that. And maybe they hadn't even thought about it before.
Often they haven't. Yeah, and that's why doing a massage in the prenatal is so important. Head to toe relax. And then they go, oh, I actually do not want to be touched there. And then and write it down and remember it, because you don't want to then do that during the labor. It's very common for people to not want their feet touched, which can be very, it's a thing to work around for sure when they really need that foot massage and they're retaining fluid in their feet and you can't touch them. But you massage the calves, don't touch their feet. If they don't want their feet touched, don't touch them. That's a pretty common one. But then there's also places like a lot of people won't want around their neck. They won't want around their face. They don't necessarily want you behind them. You have to let them know. Either they want you to like put your hand here first and then say that you're going behind them and then go behind, or they just don't be touching them from behind ever. And learning those things in prenatals is vital, especially if you want to be a trauma-informed provider, which I think everybody should be. I think every provider on the planet, not even just birth workers, need to be trauma-informed because this is the world that we live in. And people have experienced trauma, and that's, you know, that's a hill I'll die on. Take my Standing Strong class. And it's very important. I can't take any of it out.
It is. It's an amazing class. Mini promo here, but I've taken it multiple times. And each time I find it valuable. So.
Oh yes, the next one's in June. Yes, June 10th. Anyway. Yeah, so that's super important. Another thing that I like to focus on once we've established that we want the massage to happen and we know what depth that we're wanting it to happen, is looking at, do we need to look at moving fluid? Is that the point of this massage? Is the point of the massage pressing love into the body? What are we specifically looking for from this massage? Is it both? That's going to change the massage technique. Are we looking to just hit different labor points where we're looking at while we're massaging the calf, we're going to stop, push and do small circles to hit that acupressure point. Same thing for the feet or the hands. Or are we looking at, we're retaining fluid, and so the whole point is to go down and get the fluid down, and then to go back up to get the fluid up, or just for comfort. So that's going to really change your technique. And I would encourage everybody who's going into a birth to learn how to do all three before you go in and practice.
Yes, practice is very good.
Yeah, especially the massage and stretches. You should always stretch, all of the stretches. That was the joke that we were actually saying at this last labor, because baby flew out. She said that she didn't even push, that just baby came out. I've only missed 2 births in my entire history, and that was the second one, and I'm still not happy. Anyway, so apparently the baby flew out, but I was there for her immediate care. She's just had baby. I got there as fast as I could. And she turned to me and she goes, I did the stretches that you taught me in my prenatals every single day. And I was like, that's why that baby flew out.
It's a dream.
And if she's watching this, I love you. All of the positive things that I wanted to be there. Anyway, yeah. So, that is chapter 8. Do you have anything else that you want to say about massage techniques or anything? I don't want to get into the specifics of teaching y'all how to massage, because then we'll be here for.
Yeah. I don't have anything else.
Standing, dancing, leaning over. Positive about getting your foot up asymmetrical, getting the hips kind of unaligned. If you do that, do it to both feet. Supposedly you're supposed to start with the right and then do the left. I don't know why, but that's what they teach, is to, when in doubt, do right foot up. And the idea behind that is to kind of go asymmetrical, let the baby move down, and then go asymmetrical, let the baby move down, like sifting sand, slowly but surely moving down. Or if you choose to get cervical checks, and they say the right side is dilating really quickly, but the left side isn't, which is why I always ask, is it an even circle dilation, or is one side higher than the other? Then putting the side that's not getting dilated as quickly down, and then baby's head goes more firmly on that side, can actually fix a bit of a malposition issue and helps dilate more evenly. So that's a fun tip. I'm just flipping through here and looking at the different positions to make sure I don't forget. Hands and knees is great. Child's pose is always fabulous.
And then also for the hip opening, earlier on in labor, you want to have the feet together, knees apart if you're on your knees, to help open up the top of the pelvis. But then once baby is actually moving down When you're into the birth canal, you want more of the knees together, feet apart to open up the outlet.
Which feels wrong until you do it. So all doulas show your clients in the prenatals or they don't believe. I do it in my birth classes, and it's the funniest thing because I will literally get down and be like, okay, really showing you guys that there's no such thing as TMI with a doula. I need all you guys to look at my butt. I get down on my hands and knees and I show them. I say, look at this. I put my knees out and I put my ankles together and I say, this is how everybody thinks you should give birth, right? Everybody look at my pelvis. Do you see how the exit is so closed and the top is open? And then I say, now watch this. And I switch it and you, every single time here. Watch it exactly. So when you are pushing, we want the exit to be open. And the visual sticks with people. So, and then that's when you get people who, when they're giving birth, they start naturally turning their knees in, which you can do in no matter what position you're birthing in, except if you're pushing out in a malasana squat, that's not going to happen. But other than that, as much as I love squatting, it's great if people want to give birth in a squat. It does shorten and thicken the birth canal, which is positive, but it does not give you a lot of opportunity for widening the exit pelvis-wise. But anyway. Visualization, sweet talking her through, yes. That is something else that you can practice. Something that they taught me in my Bradley Method childbirth class. I was Bradley Method when I first started this whole stuff. Was practicing different kinds of meditation visualization in these different positions. And what I like to do is have people either do that in different relaxed positions and or in a 90-degree goddess squat. Because in a 90-degree goddess squat, you're uncomfortable. And you can choose to get out of it. And so my preference is which of these is helping you stay in that longer. And I think that teaches you a lot more about yourself than just laying down. And I'm not a fan of making yourself uncomfortable with ice. Like, how long can you stand having your really, really cold ice on you while I go through this? I don't like it. Other people do. It's just not my preference. I think it's a lot better to be like strength, because that's what it is. It's a muscle thing. But
That's fair.
yeah.
Yeah, I tend, for like the mantras and visualization, I feel like they are much more effective if you are practicing them prenatally rather than just pulling them out during birth.
Right. And then you can write down what works for you, right? I've got, there's a purple bag right back there. Can you grab it? I've got a bag of some that my wonderful friend gave to me when she left doula work to pursue other things. And it's different Bible verses that encourage, I'll take pictures of this and put it in there. Encourage you in labor, for example, be still and know that I am God, Psalm 46:10, and being able to go through these and saying which ones are actually helping me. Like, do I need ones that give me strength? Am I talking about not being fearful? And if that is, if you have a holy book of some kind, going through and seeing what verses really empower you can be really helpful. And then just basic mantras, like, let this pain remind me that I know something good is happening. That's a really powerful one that I've actually used quite a bit. Not necessarily in that exact verbiage, but then when we find out what works for you, it's nice for your whole birth team, including these nurses that don't know you from Adam and then are suddenly supposed to help support you. God bless these women. Putting a mantra up on a board that's really big that they can read over your shoulder is a gift to them. That's wonderful. And then they know exactly what to say to help you, and they don't have to kind of make it up, and they might say something you don't find encouraging, or that's honestly kind of annoying, but they think that they're helping you, that might have helped other people. And if they knew you, then they would know that that would help you. But they don't, because they just met you for the first time. They just came on shift. So that's my encouragement. And then I like having these because I can just be like, here, flip through these. If you like them, take a picture of it, and we'll make you something pretty and big and take it and write it big. especially if you wear glasses and you're gonna take your glasses off during labor and then suddenly you can't see
I've
anymore.
seen relatively recently, if you are having a home birth, is putting these under your birth tub liner. Cause like
That's getting so popular. I think like one person did it and the whole birth world went, oh, yes. And because that's one of the hardest things is you can't see them. I had a home birth client that she, like, 3/4 of the way through her labor, she was like, and I can't read any of it. She was looking right at her beautiful wall that we had put together because she didn't have her glasses on. She was in the tub, so she didn't want to put her glasses on. I was like, I'm so sorry. I just started reading it to her.
I have like this very persistent habit of waiting until the last minute to put my birth affirmations on the wall. So I ask someone else to do it, and they do it in a really ugly way, and I get annoyed during. I
I put them on the wall at your last labor.
no, the thing was that I didn't have tape.
I had to put it up with blue tape, right?
My mom had put it up in my previous labor, and the like organization of it was so weird. I'm like,
There was one on there about like you are the storm. That like every time I would read it, I would see be like, I was like, yeah, not really.
it's funny because that is it. I got that somewhere that it wasn't like meant as a birth affirmation. It was just like a quote from some saying and another culture, I think. It was like it was about warriors.
Oh.
Not about birthing women, but I'm like, I like this a lot.
Yeah. Well, in the old Spartan, I have a history degree, sorry y'all. But in old Spartan culture, you only got your name on your headstone if you died in battle or childbirth, because they equated them.
That's awesome.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
We were a very progressive place, and then very not in other ways, like just straight up horrifying.
It's funny how a lot of cultures are that way.
We can't just be positive. We have to throw in a bunch of horror as well. We can't just give women a lot of freedom. We also have to do their horror.